this is Tom, aka Gedeon, here for Star Frontiers Gamer. Today we have Fanzine Friday number 23, which means we are doing a review of Star Frontiersman number 23. Now this cover, let me just reduce the image and get it all on screen. This cover is easily, in my opinion, the best Star Frontiers subject cover. I mean, some of the covers, they could just be generic sci-fi. And some of the covers have been exclusively or explicitly Star Frontiers. This one is easily the best. You have a couple of Sathar, which look extra creepy, with their mouth and teeth protruding from their mouth there a little bit. And they've got some guy who has been strapped into some sadistic dentist chair, and coming off of the apparatus that hangs above the chair is this helmet. And so clearly they're not working on his teeth, they're working on his mind. But we expect this with the Sathar because they have that special hypnotism ability. So, it's a shame if you never let the Sathar violate the minds of the player characters, because that's their special ability. So it really, at some point in a campaign, it needs to be something that happens, that the Sathar violate the bodies and or minds of the player characters, because that's what they do. So this is absolutely fabulous Star Frontiers art. It is done by Shell. It was actually, this cover was drawn back in August 15th, 2012. Absolutely one of his best. And, it's a monochrome. It's a monochrome, and yet it rocks. Go figure, right? So this is a redacted issue. Cover's done by Shell Allen Shoemake. You know and love his artwork already. That is true. We do. Thanks for this terrifying image, Shell. It is kind of creepy. The William Douglas is the editor. And as I was saying, this is a redacted issue. You've heard me explain it before. So what was redacted from here was Home Sweet Home, the remastering of the Dragon magazine article called Home Sweet Home, which was about creating planets for the Star Frontiers game. So it was a set of rules for rolling up a star system and planets. The Creatures of the Frontier is the first article. Now, let me just read this little disclaimer from the editor. This article on swamp critters from Firma was stashed on my computer. I acquired it on one of my surfing expeditions looking for obscure Star Frontiers stuff. I have no idea where I got it or who created it. Since I cannot find it now on the web, I thought it should be brought to light. If the author reads this and would like credit, I would be happy to include that in the next issue. So, Firma, man, we need to check the Lost Internet Archive and find out who did this. But this is a compendium of creatures all developed together to be from a swamp environment. So it's, it's just got a name, Firma. You don't have to use this name. You could use this if you're having an exploration game where the player characters are the crew of an explorer scout ship. And so they land on a planet, and this is, these are the critters they find in that environment. So you've got a carrion frog. You got a mantithopter. It's a flying insect hunter. Carrion vines, mutation fungus, shriekers. These are a mushroom. So there's not a lot of animals, but there's actually more plants in this. So it just gives you a whole ecosystem to use in your exploration type game. Now, I just want to point out that this is a tradition that has started actually in the previous issue of really starting to paint corners of the setting that are outside of the frontier. In the previous issue, it was the Belfians. You got their whole system was developed, and it's 94 light years from Prengular. You get this planet, this swamp ecosystem detailed here. In the next issue, we're going to see a whole ecosystem be developed. Like, I don't know, 40 or 80 creatures all from one planet. And then that one planet is the subject of the adventure that's in Star Frontiersman number 25, and even more creatures are created. In the end, I think they created like 180 creatures and plants from this one planet. I mean, clearly somebody had too much time on their hands. And they went hog wild. There's I don't think there's much art to illustrate those creatures, but a whole planet with a monster manual of 180 creatures, that's kind of impressive. So what we have here going on with the Star Frontiersman is this push to go beyond the borders of the frontier, and let's begin painting some new areas of the setting. That's what's happening here. So this is really cool, and I suspect Firma is a planet that was detailed by somebody in the Lost Internet Archive that we saw in the last Fanzine Friday. So I might have to go back there and take a peek and see if I can't figure out where this Firma material came from. But again, you don't have to use the name Firma. You could just apply it to whatever planet you happen to be using that the player characters are exploring that is outside of the canned setting. Next up is Character Races by Victor Gil de Rubio. And he's developed these Andorians. Now, these Andorians are more or less, and I would call them this because of the strength of the artwork with the pointed ears. They're space elves. They violate my no fantasy escapees, but we don't tolerate fantasy escapees until we do, and then we just say, well, my hypocrisy knows no bounds. But he has done a bang-up job with this. You've got their planet, their system. He has really worked to develop this in a very whole Earth ecology sense. And so I always appreciate that. That's a good deal when somebody does that. So, and we got an ad here for Frontier Explorer number 6. So that means we were 1.5 years into publishing Frontier Explorer because they came out quarterly. So we got a nice shout out from William here, and I appreciate that. And Starfall Incursion by Ben Gorman. This is a whole adventure again, which he did that previously with the incident on the Cinca Maru. And boom, I mean, this guy is just kicking out the adventure material. We should maybe nominate him, best amateur adventure writer in the frontier since whenever, right? So this is set on a moon orbiting a planet in some star system, not in the frontier. The moon is named Evergloom, and I was thinking that sounded an awful lot like a moon that exists already in the frontier, but that's okay if it is, because you have this kind of thing. Like, every town in America has a Washington. Every major town in America has a Washington Street. Names get duplicated. Even though it's got that duplicated name, it has that air of reality. It adds that to the setting, and I think that's cool. So the Starfall Incursion. It's got some great artwork of the planets involved. And we come on down here. There is, scroll. Oh, there will be Sathar. And there was an illustration in here. Oh, J.A. Davis. That's great. There we go. J.A. Davis. There's a Sathar with a clear raincoat, kind of lab coat. And he's clearly about to experiment on this human who has been gagged and bound to this medical examination table. And this evokes the cover of the issue. And so it kind of says something about this adventure. There will be Sathar, and they are looking to violate the player characters in their body and of course in their mind, because that's what Sathar do. And you might as well have that kind of thing happening. So this makes this a very interesting adventure. We're not going to, spoiler alert on it too much here, but a ton of material. And then we get down here to Delta section, and we get like 8 creatures. There's one, the Black Racer. This one's the Dripper, the Lightning Bug, Luminous Hopper, the Night Blade, the Nightwing, Sand Flea, Sand Strider. Oh, we get an illustration for the Sand Strider. But and then we get the Shade and the Stinging Snail, Weed Rat. I mean, it's a ton of creatures here that he's created for this. Then, separate from those creatures, we get Delta subsection 2, new Sathar attack monster, the Death Weaver. So it's a whole adventure, little map, and he's been exceptionally thorough. So, I mean, this is Ben Gorman's work. This is what he does. He writes good adventures that are, he tries to cover all the bases, and always gets high praise from me when somebody does that. Next up, we get new equipment, and this little offering from Woot, from Larry Moore, is a Hover Armored Personnel Carrier, HAPC. And it looks like he has detailed it up according to the Alpha Dawn standard. Very cool. We have some modern armors, variant armors, and Star Frontiers that have been detailed for us by Andy Campbell. And then he detailed archaic armors and then shield use. Then we get into some new weapons. Now, the fusion rifle, I just want to point it out, its defense is the in-suit. 2 S's in there. And the in-suit is an item found in the Starship Engineer's toolkit. It protects him from radiation. So you almost will need to establish a cost for this defensive suit, for this protective suit, and add it to the equipment list. You're going to need to do that. He provides radiation damage, and he does it in the classic poison formula that Star Frontiers use, with a strength of the toxin, and T here, I believe, being the time element. So it's done according to the classic poison or toxin thing. I wrote a whole article on radiation sickness. Did it in the same format, but a little bit different. This is a much simpler version for it than what I did. There is also a drug, a Zebulon's Guide drug that you can take to neutralize radiation. So then you've got these blasters that use the synth suit defense from Zebulon's Guide. And we're talking, just the blaster, then the blaster cannon, blaster rifle. So it's the different grades of weapon. Then there's a conversion of the PGMP-12 from Traveler. So that's the plasma gun man portable. It's an experimental weapon. This was adapted from Traveler. And you need the grid suit from Zebulon's Guide. So they've also added the PGMP-13 from Traveler as well. And then the Roffler helmet from Polyhedron. So they've just converted the Roffler helmet from Polyhedron 20, and the other Roffler weapons are all converted to an Alpha Dawn mechanic and put in here. And there's some new projectile weapons, and I like these, like the light revolver and the heavy revolver. I highly approve of those being added to the Frontier. A sniper rifle, a heavy auto pistol, a heavy auto rifle, and an automatic shotgun. And then we get down into gauze rifle, very, very nasty. And there's a structural damage table, and they've actually done the law rocket in Star Frontier's statistics, so that's cool. Then next up, you get this article on Star Frontiers / modern weapon equivalents, and it's equating modern weapons gauges to modern weapons calibers to Star Frontiers weapons. And I highly approve of that. Anything that works on increasing our knowledge and expanding our our range of knowledge with the game, totally down with that. Now, creative refereeing, not just a flesh wound. This is a much more deadly wound system for Star Frontiers, where even one single shot could take a character out. And, they talk about the case that no single weapon is likely to kill a player character. Depends. A heavy laser set on maximum setting, jacked into a para battery, does have a rate of fire of 2. So that operator gets 2 shots, and it could be goodnight, Irene, particularly if the player character is not wearing an albedo screen or an albedo suit. It could be a very short firefight for that individual. So it's he covers healings, he covers wounds, shock, the lethality of the weapons. All these things are covered. It adds some more granularity. And he does point out that the existing rules as written system is very simple. My thing is I've come back to the point where I'm like, I kind of just like it simple. Let's play the game, particularly if we're playing on a Friday night or Sunday night via, the internet. You just kind of want simple is how I feel about it. So, it looks like a good system to me. I just haven't play tested it, and I'm not likely to because of, how I'm playing and what time I have to play these days. This would have been good for me in my 20s. Next up is Kaakin Car System Brief. Kaakin Car is the system on the outside edge of what I call the verse jump loop. The verse jump loop starts up at Turladron Fromaltar and just comes back around and then links into White Light. So I call that the verse. All these are verse systems on that jump route loop. And so it's kind of out there, up against the edge of the frontier, up against the nebula. And so this is interesting that they've painted in this particular system. They've mined the cannon material. The person doing Alan Troussel was aware there was a fortified space station there orbiting Kenzakit. And so this is an excellent system brief. My only issue with it is he introduces a primitive species called the Tyleri. They're basically a hairy ape man. And my criticism is that like every other place in the frontier had a hairy ape man. You had the Waipongs on Losen. You had the Kurabunga on Volturnus. You had who else? Mission to Alcazar. There was another hairy ape man. The Beyond the Frontier campaign there. With the mutiny on the Eleanor Mores leading to Face of the Enemy, leading to War Machine. The Memney on Snowball, another hairy ape man. So we get these over and over again, and it's kind of like enough with the hairy ape men. So this is a reasonably good treatment of a primitive species that has been incorporated into a much more advanced society. And I like what he's done with this, particularly like these places of interest. You got this museum, this grand museum that also doubles as a university. So here's another university administered by Verse out on the Verse jump loop. It just adds another university for you to specify somebody was educated at. But then you've got these Tyleri tribal camps scattered around Kenzakit. There are Tyleri that still practice their ancient traditions. Many of these are open as tourist attractions where the native Tyleri perform ritual dances, songs, sell handcrafted goods. Some Tyleri on both sides of their culture, those who have adapted to the advanced society and those who have remained traditional, see many of these performing Tyleri as being disrespectful of the old ways and shun these tourist traps. I like that. I think that's cool. You get these planets. So in the first orbit around Ka'ak-Kar, you get this planet, and I noticed something here, that it had an atmosphere, but it sits at AU 0.15. That's awful close to the sun. It's actually closer than Mercury, and you have to wonder about the solar winds stripping the atmosphere from this planet. However, on the devil's advocate side, the gravity is quite high. It's 0.85. So that's pretty high. I don't know what the science would say concerning whether or not the solar wind from a star of Ka'ak-Kar's strength would actually strip the atmosphere or not. I don't know. So I would just be like, yeah, whatever. We'll go with it this way until we know better science. And if we never know better science, we'll just go with it as this. However, the fact that it does have an atmosphere doesn't mean you're taking your space helmet off on this planet, because carbon dioxide is 20%. That's a special kind of lethal. Like probably you take a few breaths and then you drop unconscious and you're dead quick. 20% carbon dioxide is exceptionally a lethal level of carbon dioxide. So if you go to this planet, yeah, it has an atmosphere, but you will be wearing something, as to breathe. Next up, we get a gas giant. It has 3 major moons and 9 minor ones. So I would interpret the minor ones as just being a little better than like a big asteroid. The major ones would have some gravity, and so that's kind of interesting. And so, there might be some possibility for some adventure on those major moons. They specify here Tazak Nar. Now, I like this because I always went with Hatzik Nar, pirate being a Versk. So very similar name, and it's the name for the fortified space station. We have not previously gotten a name for this fortified space station, so that's a nice little coloring in of an area of the frontier. Customs agents inspecting cargoes thoroughly to ensure nothing enters Kenzakit that could contaminate the farms. So they're highly on alert against biological things being brought in to the planet that could contaminate the ecosystem. Very concerned about that. Next up, we get Ka'ak-Kar, the habitable planet of this system. And I checked, so the gravity is 0.9, very close to Earth. The atmosphere is 20% oxygen, 2% water vapor, trace others. I was looking to see what they put for carbon dioxide here, and it clearly falls under trace. You cannot have a high carbon dioxide. 2 or 4% starts getting out of hand, deadly. So this is good. This is actually good. Corporate democracy for government and space station. They break down the population. I complained about the Tyleri being just another hairy ape man. You could easily strip them out. Just strip them out of here and not use them, and it's not going to affect anything, honestly. And coming on down, we get a Kaakenkar 4, the fourth orbit, the Zahren Kit planet. Zahren Kit. And it's got a lighter gravity, it's 0.7, and we've got carbon dioxide of 3%. Now, the thing here specifies that it's a cold world, otherwise habitable, but it's under the process of terraforming. So you can go there, you can remove your helmet and breathe, but you'll most likely be unconscious and dying in about an hour, easily. With 3% carbon dioxide. I'll have to go back and look, but 3% is deadly. And so that's what they're working on with, and it specifies you've got groups of scientists in small communities and outposts working on the terraforming process. So, I would make that a feature of the environment. You've got to have a breather, something that allows you to breathe. Next up, another gas giant. It's a high mean temperature. It's got major moons. It's a rather unremarkable gas giant, typical of its kind. Of its numerous moons, 2 have useful ores and support mining efforts. So I would think that mining ships are landing a mineral refinery, and then they're using excavation robots to fill the mineral refinery. And then the digger shuttles come down and pick up the ore. But definitely what I would see going on for a mining operation. And then we get this whole write-up on the Teleri, a minor race in the frontier. And again, I spoke my piece on it. I'm just not having another primitive ape man in my setting. Too many already. So. And then we get down to classifieds, and the issue's over. So, Star Frontiersman 23, one of the most gorgeous Star Frontiers covers in the Star Frontiersman fan magazine ever. I love this artwork. Just these Sathar about to experiment on this guy. Absolutely fabulous. So this is Tom for Star Frontiers Gamer and Tabletop Taproom. I want to thank you for watching my video. I want to thank my subscribers. You guys are great. And I will see you in the frontier.